Welcome to this week's Oregon Minute. Today we are interviewing Steve Hanrahan, who is the COO of Habitat for Humanity of Dane County. He's been COO for 2.5 years, Steve. That's what you said. And
Yes.
you've been with
Mhm.
Habitat for Humanity of Dane County 6 years total. All right. Um, and so for those of our viewers who are maybe unfamiliar with Habitat for Humanity of Dane County, the reason we have Steve on the show today is because of the development, the affordable housing development that is going up
Mhm.
on Janesville Street. So Steve, before we get into that, tell me how Habitat for Humanity of Dane County serve.
Another good question. Um, we are best known for building homes, and that's our primary mission. In order to be eligible for a habitat home, you have to have income between 30 and 60% of the area media income. You have to be a resident of Dane County. You have to be willing to participate in the actual building of the home or someone else's home or some other ways to put in what we call sweat equity. And then to make it work and to make it affordable, we build the home, we then have it appraised, and we sell it to the homeowner at appraised value. And I just want to pause for a second there to make sure we understand that we are trying to destroy the myth that we give homes away because we definitely do not. We are a builder and a banker and an educator all at once. So our families' payments are then capped at about 28% of their income, and it's a zero or very, very low interest mortgage. So that's what makes it affordable. But again, the structure itself has to be within a reasonable price range in order for the appraised value to be within the ballpark of being able to pay for the home over 30 years. If there is a gap there, um, we take a second mortgage silent and we actually write it off. If we see the homeowner selling their home in that period of time, we get it back with the equity growth in the home. But for the most part, it's affordable because how we limit the amount of their income that they spend on housing, and also because of the low interest mortgage. But in addition to that, we also provide financial services, excuse me, financial education services to folks in Dane County. We have financial readiness training, allows people to learn about budgeting and how to be prepared to be a homeowner in our habitat environment. Um, and we also operate two restores where we sell what started out as being leftover construction goods to the general public, but now we sell furniture, appliances. We have a neat product that we call urban wood. That's trees from Dane County that are torn down, and we sell the wood in our stores. It's mainly artist types that buy it, but those are the three main areas that where we serve: the homes, the financial education, and our restores.
So then tell me about the Habitat for Humanity development that's going up on Janesville Street. What's the layout?
Yeah. Let me give you a little bit more background. I want to make sure everybody understands we refer to ourselves as opportunists. As you can imagine, there's not a lot of available land that you can acquire and build what you referred to earlier as affordable housing, which it definitely needs to be. So whenever an opportunity arises, we do whatever we can to take advantage of that. And we were notified that there was this property on Janesville Street, and it'd been on the market for a while, but we went and looked at it. We talked to the planning folks at the city or the village, excuse me, and ran it up a couple flagpoles, and it looked like something that might be possible. So we purchased the property a while back, and our plan is to build a road, if you will, that goes perpendicular to Janesville Street, and we'll put some duplex townhome kind of structures around a circle that'll be at the end of it, a bulb, if you will. So we're looking at 4 or 5 of those. So we'll put 8 to 10 habitat families in that neighborhood over the course of probably 2 years, maybe 3, depends on um, how we recruit the families for that area.
I've as observer readers would see, this is something that I have covered extensively in my coverage of the village board. And this development, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, it would go up at the exact address being 769 Janesville Street,
That is correct, yes.
around that area. So and so that was going to mean my next question is, why Janesville Street? So now we know, of course, the physical structures it'll bring to the community, but overall, what will this development bring to the community besides just the affordable housing aspect?
What we're gonna bring to the community is a small sub-community within the village of very, appreciative and dedicated homeowners. They our homeowners tend to stay in their homes for, around 20 years. About 90% of our homeowners we've built 300 homes in Dane County, and about 90% of them are still in their homes. So long-standing residents who will pay property tax. They'll have jobs, we expect either in the community or nearby, and they participate more in community areas. Homeowners are more likely have their kids graduate from high school and go on to college. They're more likely to vote. So you get another, 8 to 10 families of voters. And just overall, it's a multi-generational opportunity for families that haven't had it because the likelihood of one of the children wanting to have their own home someday is far greater than those that have grown up in the rental world. So I believe it's all positive. The fact that they're so appreciative that they finally get into their own home that they own and maintain and pay their taxes. I know nobody likes to pay taxes, but they're proud of it because it means it means something different to them. So I think it's as I said, just a real positive.
So this neighborhood, if there's anything to compare it to around Dane County, are there any developments, surround like in the surrounding Oregon area, or maybe in Madison,
Mhm.
um, that people can maybe use that as a visual aid?
There isn't anything identical to the actual layout. However, we did build a number of duplex type structures in Oregon. Um, I'll probably butcher the name of the street because I'm pretty sure it was on Dewey Street. Is there a Dewey Street in Oregon? I don't remember. Anyway, there's some similar structures there. We are building a development in Stoughton that we're just starting the infrastructure construction this spring, and that will be very similar because it'll have 8 lots that we'll be building what are called zero lot line homes on. So that one will be similar. It's just going to be a little bigger. It's an actual city street, and there's 2 extra large properties on one end of it that'll be used for probably apartment style housing. But that would be very similar. Other areas where we've built are primarily um, single family homes that are standalone. They're not, connected like a duplex or a townhome would be. So that's the main difference between what we've built around the other areas of the county and what these two projects will be like.
So say I'm a prospective resident of this Janesville development,
Mhm.
and I want to be a part of this project. I want to live in one of the
Mm.
duplexes. What And this builds on the some of the processes you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
where where the homeowner has to, has to satisfy certain criterion to be able to live in the home. But yeah, I'm a resident and I want to live in these duplexes. What do I have to do to get there?
Thanks for asking that question. I obviously left that out earlier, and I apologize. We have what we call informational meetings, and we try to conduct those quarterly. And at those meetings, prospective homeowners, families as we refer to them, uh, listen to a 2 hour presentation where we give out um, a lot of the information that they need to have to know if they're qualified. Following that, we have an open application period that they can make the application to us. And then following the application, we of course have to vet the families and homeowners, and then it goes through our approval process. And once you'd be approved for a home, you become part of our family, and you immediately get to sign up for all the educational courses, in addition to the financial um, preparedness we do. We also have a course that many new homeowners could use, but they don't get. It's called How to Be a Good Neighbor. Another one is, how to maintain your home. So it's a whole series of educational requirements that they sign up for. And they also then go on our list and we start tracking their sweat equity hours. And it's a little bit of a misnomer that they're going to build their own house. We do try to get them on their own house as often as we can, but they need to put 325 to 350 hours of time into the actual sweat equity. And we're talking about people that have to have a job in order to pay the mortgage, and B, normally work Monday through Friday. So that only leaves Saturdays where they can come out and actually build. And that's a lot of Saturdays at 8 hours or 7 hours a day to get up to 350 hours. So sometimes they supplement it with some of the other things that we count as sweat equity. They can put some time in at the restore, working in the processing area, maybe cashiering. They can also provide snacks for some of the other volunteers at the various build sites. And there's other, what we refer to as volunteer opportunities that would count towards their sweat equity. Most of our families are in the program for between 18 and 24 months from the time they're approved until they get into their home. It's a situation with the housing crisis that it's not getting a lot better, and so the number of folks that are eligible is tremendous compared to the number of people that we can serve. And it's something that we know we can't build ourselves out of ourselves. We need a lot of help from other agencies, organizations, and what have you. But we're doing our part, and building in Oregon is important. We're we're Habitat for Humanity of Dane County, not Habitat for Humanity of Madison. So we need to build around the county, and we find that the homeowners and families we deal with are um, they're keen to where their home's going to be, and so there's already a need and interest in Oregon, even though we haven't had a an informational meeting as of yet. And the reason we don't have that is we don't have the approvals, we don't have the plan completed, and we like to offer the property and help work with the family on what colors they like, and some of the countertop finishes and what have you. So we need to know what we're building before we start building. It's a lengthy process. Let me put it that way. But does that answer the question, or is there more?
I think it spotlights that um, that there's definitely a process involved. If it's not that just somebody can a prospective resident or a family member, as you put it, can just come to the organization and say, "I want a house," and then you build it for them. It's a balancing act. We'll help you if you put in the time. So it's a it's a it's a it's an exchange for sure.
Yeah, we call it a hand up, not a handout.
Mhm.
And it's really a partnership and working together. Um, I mean, if you can imagine this, if you are working 40 hours a week and then putting 8 hours a day on a Saturday into building your own home, the pride and the just satisfaction you get out of participating in that makes it even more special. So it's really fun to watch the the reactions to giving them the keys to their house. That's a lot of fun.
I bet. I mean, and it makes it sounds like it makes it all worth it. I mean, to them, for them that this is something they work towards, and then of course for someone like yourself, I'm sure you've seen with as many houses that have and duplexes, shelters that have gone up in Dane County. I'm sure you've seen that look a thousand different times, but
Yeah.
it doesn't get any less gratifying each
Oh,
time.
it's no, it's special each time. No question.
Uh, so my next question, and I'm sure the pandemic has played a part in this, but what demographic, um, of people does Habitat for Humanity of Dane County primarily help serve?
That's another great question. First of all, it's not really a demographic, but the income we have to make sure we understand is between 30 and 60% of AMI, as we call it. For a family of four, the AMI in Dane County is right around $100,000 a year. So 30 to 60%, because the math's easy, is a family of four household income being between 30 and $60,000 a year. That's in order to be eligible. If you make more, you're not eligible. If you make less, you're not eligible. Over the last 5 to 6 years, our demographic has been approximately 40% Black, African American, 30% other Hispanic, Asian, some Hmong, and then the other 30% is white. So we're pretty diverse when it comes to the families that we serve and our partners in the process. And we're keenly aware of the black white wealth gap, if you will, and home ownership is one of the and maybe the only and most important way for black families to gain wealth and the equity in their home. So we're trying to do our part in promoting that and making sure that we're part of the solution and not creating more of a problem.
Um, and I appreciate that answer a lot, because there are I think when people and I've had conversations with colleagues about this, but I think when people hear the terms, and this is why I ask about demographics, because when people hear things like multifamily housing or affordable housing, I think it's unfortunate that this connotation comes along with it, but what you automatically think of are, maybe um, lower income families.
Emily, thanks for asking that question. If you went out and asked 100 people to define affordable housing, you'd probably get 25 to 50 answers. It's not as defined as people would like. Um, yes, there's definitely negative connotations to multifamily affordable housing. Everyone thinks it's very high density, government subsidized rent. Clearly, it's okay for somebody else's backyard, but maybe not mine, and what have you. Um, I'm not going to address whether that's right, wrong, or whatever. There's a lot of myths that surround that. But what I can tell you is that home ownership in the affordable range is much different. It's not nearly the stigma is still there because the questions never go away on well, what's going to happen in our neighborhood with housing values, what's going to happen with crime, what's going to happen with whatever else you want to noise, whatever. And the fact of the matter is, as I explained earlier, we are adding some folks to a community that are extremely um, proud of what they've done to get their house. And it's a little different than just the big blanket of, looking at affordable housing. Again, we don't give houses away. These folks are paying a mortgage. We just, as a little bit of an aside, paid all of our current mortgages, escrow taxes for all our homeowners, and it's over $800,000 that we pay Dane County for taxes. So they support their, they pay their way in the community. Let's, put it that way. There's research that'll show that mixed income housing, if you will, does not lower property values. I can tell you that all day long, and unless somebody has an open mind, they probably aren't going to believe it anyway. But it's that just a fact. Our houses don't appraise for, you know, $50,000. They appraise upwards around 200,000 right now. So it's not a shack out in the woods. We're building quality homes. We have to build them at the same standards that other developers do. Our difference is the magic we put into it is our mortgage and how we deal with restricting the amount that not restricting, but limiting the amount that a family pays of their monthly income. You're considered to be basically stressed in the housing area if you pay more than 50% of your income for housing. If you think about that for a second, if you're spending 50,000 or 50,000, 50% of your income on housing, that means you're scraping by on maybe some food, some healthcare, some education, some of the things that many of us take for granted that we have left over. If you were going to apply for a conventional mortgage, you're not going to be able to qualify for a conventional mortgage if you don't keep those numbers within the, debt and income into the, maybe 35 to 42% range. So anybody that's renting and paying over 50% is they're in a no-win situation. And to get into home ownership and to jump through all the hoops and meet all the requirements that we have for our families, as I said before, they're very, very proud of what they've done and appreciative. And the neighborhood will find that they've gained um, some great neighbors. Let's put it that way.
So the ultimate, so we know and this is my final question in that regards. The end goal, of course, is new neighbors, right? But what are the next steps for this project? Because I know there were some general development plans that came through the commission like last fall, but I will say I have not seen anything come through the commission just yet. So what are the next steps? What still needs to be done in order to get this development off the
Yeah,
ground?
that's another good question. We actually have not submitted general development plans yet. What we submitted was a concept plan. Um, Let me back up again and just make sure that we all understand that, as I said, we're opportunistic and we purchased the land so that we can build. But we're also building in Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, Madison, and Stoughton. So we don't need to develop this land tomorrow. So we're taking our time to make sure we do it right and we know where it's going to fit into our process. So it'll probably be not this fiscal year, which will start July 1, it'll be the next fiscal year that we'll be actually building the structures. We need to get our general development plan submitted. There's some zoning issues that'll be discussed and we need approvals for. We do need to do some demolition, and our plan, for those that are interested in, includes rehabbing the larger home that's on the property and putting that on the market. So that'll be parceled off as its own property. It has its own driveway. There'll be either a new garage built or a space where someone could build a garage. And I would like to also point out that this is the old Bible camp property. Um, I know I'm getting old, but I don't know of anything about that. It was probably long gone before I was around, but we've been working with the Historical Society and nothing is firmed up yet, but we are very open to working with them so that there can be um, some kind of a marker, maybe some of the leftover items that are on the property, just as a way to commemorate the fact that this was a significant um, part of the history of Oregon, and we want to make sure that everyone understands we're more than open to helping out in that regard. So it's going to be a ways off. We will be submitting our plans in April. We hope to get in front of the planning commission and then the village board in the spring so that we have all the approvals we need. But the chances of you seeing new neighbors in that area is still a little ways away.
And I appreciate your clarification on that, Steve. I could have sworn I could have sworn there's a couple. I'm sure a lot of our viewers know there's a couple of affordable housing developments going up. It's not just um, Habitat for Humanity, but there's an apartment complex from Lakeshore Properties, and so they've submitted, they've gone through the whole process that you're about to go through with the commission and the village board. So I must have accidentally, I could have, and I looked back at some of my own coverage, and you're right, it was a concept plan, and then there were some neighborhood meetings that were held last summer in Triangle Park in Oregon, and just to hear
Right.
from the general public and get their consensus and reaction to these developments, which was a very positive one.
Yeah.
And I know that a sentiment was to preserve, as much history of the site as possible. So I'm happy that you mentioned that, and I'm happy that you clarified that. But Steve, I'm really appreciative that you took the time to come on the show today. I'm sure this affordable housing is a continuous um, challenge for the village of Oregon, and I think a lot of our viewers will be happy to know that these developments are coming to the community. And they're but yeah, no matter what, there's a long road ahead, and um, but yeah, and just thank you for the enlightening conversation today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Let me leave you with a tidbit. Um, Habitat for Humanity Dane County actually has its roots in the Brooklyn, Oregon area. And the previous owner of this property was part of that group. So we actually purchased the property from an individual or a couple that were Habitat volunteers, and they were involved in the early days of Habitat. So that I'm sure they felt good about it falling into our hands and what have you. So we're looking forward to getting to Oregon, getting the work underway and completed for the families that we serve. And I need to mention that working with everyone in the community has been very positive. The staff has been great. The planning commission has been very open and making worthwhile suggestions, and in the neighbors that we've been able to talk to, yeah, there's concerns, but we get a chance to talk it through, and that eases a lot of minds. So, thank you for having me. And if you need more information in the future, let me know. We'd be more than happy to talk again.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, Steve. Again, thank you, Steve. For coming on the Oregon Minute, and of course, thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in every week. If you are new to the show, watch every Thursday at 7 p.m.